Alright, welcome back everybody. This is week 3 of PFL Season 9. This week we are going up against Gage, and I have his team pulled up in the top right-hand corner. Now, unlike last week where I skipped the team recap because the battle was so short, I'm recording this one right before I go in, like literally 10 minutes before I even play the battle. So I'm just going to run down the team, why I'm bringing what I'm bringing, and then hopefully it'll all make sense for when it comes time for the actual battle, and I'll explain and do whatever. So we have Heatran this week. I have him holding the Gracium Z with Solar Beam, simply because he has a couple big threats in... it's Hippowdon and Suicune. Both take like huge damage, pretty much a one-hit KO from Solar Beam. So if I get them on a switch, then I can, I can just take care of those threats really quickly. Stealth Rock for utility purposes. I think I'm going to lead Heatran because he also has a ferroseed, and Heatran obviously Flamethrower just outright KOs. Actually, you know what? Hold on. I'm gonna last minute switch this. I'm gonna make it Magma Storm. I don't know why, just for giggles, it's fine. So Magma Storm for damage is a little more power, and it traps a Pokemon in, which I think is really pretty important. And then obviously Earth Power can hit his Raikou for super effective damage, as well as if he brings the Entei, or yeah, I mean that's pretty much it. It's just kind of an all-around coverage move in case it doesn't take any damage. I'm not going to be using Solar Beam like consistently because you can only use it one time with Gracium Z. The way I have his EV spread looking, it's he's bulky. He's defensively bulky because I don't want him to take too much damage from Zygarde or Hippowdon, or Stoutland is actually somebody I'm a little worried about because he's got the Hippowdon Sandstream Stoutland Sandrush combo. So I don't know if he's going to bring that. Either way. Next we have the Lightning Thief, who was Perseus. It's just the Manaphy, leftovers. He's a bulky special attacker. He's not very fast, but he doesn't need to be because he's not going to outspeed the Mons that he would need to outspeed. Everything else on his team is pretty slow. He's got Tail Glow, Scald, Energy Ball, and Ice Beam. I wish I could have had a substitute on there, but I need the Ice Beam so I can hit Virizion, and it would help with Zygarde 10% a lot. So pretty simple set with the Manaphy. Next we have our Mega Aerodactyl, who was Nelly last week, and now is Chocolate Pain. I have Earthquake for coverage, Aerial Ace strictly for the Virizion, pretty much. Roost, just because I like keeping the Pokemon healthy, and Aqua-Tail, which so I can hit the Hippowdon and yeah, just the Hippowdon pretty much. Hippowdon's scary. Hippowdon is like, very physically defensive, but Aqua-Tail, I believe with this maximum investment, does do like over half, so I'm not like super worried about him. For the first time bringing him this Escavalier Shrubbery, which is a little Monty Python reference. I have him holding an Assault Vest, and this is not supposed to be Swords Dance. This is supposed to be Iron Head. Look at these last minute edits I'm doing. Yeah, so he's holding the Assault Vest. He's slightly bulky, but he does hit like a truck. He pretty much can take pretty much whatever hit that he wants to throw at me, and then just hit back pretty much super effective damage, or a knockoff, get rid of an item. Knockoff will just destroy Hoopa. It heavily cripples the Zygarde, the Raikou, Hippowdon, pretty much every one of his team. He has Overcoat simply because I have the Alolan Ninetales with Hail. But other than that, I mean, he's going to play pretty simply. Like, hopefully I'll just be able to U-turn in, which right now we're going into this Flygon, who's named Google+. Choice Scarfed. He was Choice Scarfed the last week I brought him. He's got Defog, Earthquake, U-turn, and Dragon Claw. Earthquake for coverage, and Choice Scarf so he can outspeed the Raikou. U-turn is obviously for utility, to be able to outspeed something if I don't want to go in, and I can switch in, take a defensive hit. I can switch into, I can switch into Heatran. I can switch into Escavalier. It gives me a bunch of options, and then Dragon Claw in case Zygarde 10 is not scarfed or it is knocked off. Then Dragon Claw just does like a ton of damage to him. Yeah, no, fairly simple stuff for the Flygon. And then last but not least, we have the Alolan Ninetales, Complex Carbohydrates, with Freeze Dry, Aurora Veil, Moonblast, and Hypnosis. I'm thinking... See, as you can see, I totally don't have this like nailed down in my head as to what I want to do. I haven't had a lot of time to plan my team this week. I'm not sure if I want to run Hypnosis or You know, I think I'm gonna run Toxic actually, because Hypnosis missed 4 times in our week 1 battle, and I just don't want that to happen like at all. Freeze Dry, Aurora Veil, Moon. Why do I have Moonblast? There's a reason I have Moonblast, and it doesn't. I don't. Moonblast doesn't really help me at all. Maybe I could run both. I could run both. Run Heal Bell. He's not going to have any statuses, though. Looking at his team, he doesn't really have, like, big walls or big status. He's mostly just, like, standard offense. I'm going to go for Protect. Yeah, I'm going to kind of have this Ninetales be a little, not a wall, but just kind of a scout. Be able to set up an Aurora Veil, take a hit, potentially switch into our Heatran, Mana Feed setup, Chocolate Pain, and honestly, my goal is just to set up the Aurora Veil and just destroy his team from the inside out. And this is the final moveset we're going to have. Light Clay is so that Aurora Veil lasts for 8 turns, which is a crazy long amount. And yeah, so I guess let's just get right into the battle. That took a little bit amount of time, but it was some last minute edits, some last minute definitely needed to do that. So, all right. Okay, so the battle starts, and I think he's going to lead Ferroseed because that's what he's done the last few times. And I send out Heatran, and he ends up being like, oh, okay, so he's probably going to lead Heatran, so he sends out Suicune. And at this point, I'm like, well, I have the Z Bloom Doom, but that won't outright kill Suicune, so I have to switch out of there. I don't want Heatran taking any damage. I go into Manaphy. He hits me with a Skull that does, like, negligible damage. And at this point, I'm like, please don't burn. Like, don't even do that. Like, that would stink. Little Leftovers recovery. Right here, I could have set up a Tail Glow, but I ended up deciding to just go straight for the Energy Ball in case he wanted to stay in or sub or Calm Mind or something. But he brings in the Ferroseed, and it takes 5%. It's got the Eviolite, of course. And at this point, I'm like, okay, well, I can't really touch this Ferroseed. Do I set up a Tail? I might set up a... No, I don't. Okay, so I switch back out into Heatran, and he goes for the Spikes. And I'm like, okay, like, I have the ability to hit him with a fire type attack. Like, there's no way he stays in right now. And here's what I could have done. I could have read the fact that he was going to switch because it was pretty obvious. He goes into Zygarde 10%. I could have hit him with a Bloom Doom. I could have hit him with the Magma Storm. But I ended up just going for Rocks because that's what I figured. That's my best opportunity to get up Rocks. At this point, I'm like, okay, well, who wants to take 1,000 arrows at this point in the match? And it's Escavalier. And so what he ends up doing is I send in Escavalier, and he Stone Edges me. And I guess maybe he was thinking that I would go into Aerodactyl. I don't exactly get why, because 1,000 arrows would have hit Aerodactyl anyway. And I could have even went into Flygon. But either way, I'm in with the Escavalier. He hits me with a Stone Edge and it critical hits, and that sucks. And I'm like, all right, like, that was actually like a ton of my health. That was over half of it. So I end up just going for the knockoff. I'm like, okay, like, if that Zygarde is choiced, I just want that Choice Scarf off. Sends in the Ferroseed, knocks off the Eviolite. I'm like, all right, great. This Pokemon is now just dead. Well, unfortunately, it didn't die to a Mega Horn, and I thought it was going to. It ends up taking, like, 60% or something like that, and he's able to get the rocks off. And on my side of the field's covered. It's got 1 layer of spikes on it. It's got rocks. And so instead of going for another Mega Horn, I end up going for the knockoff because it'll kill anyway. And I'm not sure exactly why he decided to save the Ferroseed, but he goes into Suicune, and I knock off the Suicune's Choice Scarf. And I was like, of all of the Pokemon on your team to be Choice Scarfed, it's the Suicune? And I was a little confused. Anyway, so I knock it off. I end up staying in because, like, he was going to die anyway coming in with only 20% HP, and he kills me with a Scald. At this point, I'm like, okay, well, I outspeed the Suicune now because he was Choice Scarfed, and I can set up an Aurora Veil. And so he ends up going to the Entei because he knows he can't really do anything to my Ninetales. And so I set up the Aurora Veil. I'm like, all right, like, this is the moment. Ninetales is holding the Light Clay, so it's going to take 8 turns for the Aurora Veil to stop. So, my team is now pretty well protected about whatever he wants to do. I'm like, all right, great, this is a perfect time to set up. And he ends up going for, was it a fire type move? No, he goes for Iron Head. I think he was expecting the Ninetales, but I'm surprised he didn't just go for a fire type move off the bat. Maybe he was thinking about my Heatran. But he Iron Heads my Manaphy. It doesn't do much damage at all because of the Aurora Veil, and also it's a resisted hit, and it's not stab. So I end up setting up a Tail Glow. And at this point, I'm like, okay, well, I calced this before the battle. I'm like, I know I can live one Thunderbolt if I have around, I'm pretty sure a Thunderbolt does like 40% with the Aurora Veil up, and it ends up doing like 40%. How much exactly? Yeah, it does 44%. He takes some Life Orb damage, and I'm able to just hit him with a Scald and get this Raikou out of here. And that's good for my team. You know what I mean? I did not want that Raikou running around because Raikou gets Thunderbolt. He had probably HP Ice for the Flygon. He could have torn through my team, and this was kind of my way of like being like, all right, like he's dead. I had the Flygon with Earthquake just in case, but didn't need it. So he sends in the Zygarde, and at this point, he goes for 1,000 arrows, and I take about 21%, or 20.3%, and I live on 1% HP, I get an Ice Beam off, and I kill him. And that would be a big deal, but I think the Thunderbolt was actually a high roll, so I thought I was going to live the 1,000 arrows anyway. I have HP invested on this Manaphy specifically so I can live things like that, but it was very, very lucky. It wasn't actually a low roll. I had some investment, but I got lucky that I lived it because obviously I could have just easily died. He sends in Entei, and at this point I'm like, all right, I'm going to sack off the Manaphy. It doesn't matter. Entei goes for an extreme speed. I probably could have switched into like Aerodactyl or like Heatran or something because he couldn't touch them, but I just decided don't even worry about it. So I switch into Flygon, and I threaten the Earthquake, and he ends up going into Stoutland, and I'm like, okay, well, this is a perfect opportunity for me to defog, because defog won't get rid of Aurora Veil, and it'll get rid of my rocks, it'll get rid of the spikes, but it also ends up getting rid of rocks on his team, but that's fine, because there's more entry hazards on my side anyway, and I have the ability to set up rocks later in the match, because Heatran is still alive. So I'm sitting at -1, I'm Choice Scarfed into defog, and I was like, all right, well, this isn't good. I switch back into Alolan Ninetales because I see that the Aurora Veil is running out, and I know I can live pretty much whatever he throws at me. He decides not to go for Return. He goes for Play Rough to try to outright kill the Flygon. And because I know that his Suicune was Scarfed, I know that his Stoutland is not Scarfed, so I know I outspeed. Aurora Veil wears off, and immediately I set it right back up again. I'm like, nope, like this is what this Pokemon's here for. This Pokemon is literally here just to just to set up Aurora Veil and make my life easier. He goes for a Return, and it only does like 30%. And at this point, I'm like, all right, like, I'm probably not going to be able to come back in. I'm just going to get a Toxic off. I could have hit a Freeze Dry. I had a Protect, but it was kind of pointless. I didn't really want anything else taking damage. And I was like, all right, well, I can just let Alolan Ninetales go down. That's probably fine. I didn't know if he carried Earthquake. I didn't want to switch into Heatran. Return would have done a lot of damage to Flygon, and I still needed Flygon for the Entei potentially. So I thought that's the best case scenario. I get rid of the Alolan Ninetales. I have 6 turns of Aurora Veil and a 1 Chocolate Pain coming in on the field. So he ends up sacking off the Ferroseed. I Mega Evolve and I go for Aerial Ace, and it kills the Ferroseed, and I'm faster than anything else on his team. I do take Iron Barb damage because it's, that's just what Ferroseed does. But right now I'm sitting in a pretty good spot, honestly. All things considered. It's 3v3, but my team clearly has the advantage. I have 5 turns of Aurora Veil left. I have all my Pokemon are faster than his except for the Heatran. He goes into Suicune, and I'm like, okay, well, I have the Aurora Veil up. I know I can take a hit from the Suicune. Shouldn't be that big of a deal. He goes for Ice Beam. And Ice Beam is a critical hit, but it still only does 7%. And I'm like, okay, that's fine. Like, I have Aurora Veil. He can hit me with a Scald. He can hit me with pretty much whatever water move he wants. And he does. And he gets a critical hit. And I kid you not, like, a Scald would have done maybe 25% with Aurora Veil. I have the boost, but he gets a crit. And it kind of matters. It doesn't really. But I end up going for the Z Solar Beam, the Bloom Doom, and I just outright kill that Suicune. And I'm like, thank God, the Suicune was what I was worried about. He says wow in the chat, and he comes in with a Stoutland, and I'm sitting at 5%, and I'm like, all right, there's no point for this Heatran to stay alive. He goes for Return, and I think, I'm like, am I going to live that? I don't end up living it, though, even though I'm defensive, and Aurora Veil, and I resist it, it still does 5%. And at this point, I'm sitting pretty, honestly, pretty pretty. Um, so I send in Mega Aerodactyl, and I'm like, okay, well, I'm behind Aurora Veil. I can just hit him with strong attacks. I hit him with an Aerial Ace. He's on a Toxic Timer. The biggest thing he can hit me with is Return, because he's got Return, Play Rough, Roar, apparently, which he goes for, which I just, for the life of me, I just don't really get it. But anyway, so he roars me into Flygon, and I'm Choice Scarfed, and I'm like, well, an Earthquake will kill, so I'm going to go for Earthquake, and he's going to send in the Entei, and the Entei only has about 35% health anyway. I have one turn of Aurora Veil left, so I know I can take literally anything he wants to throw at me, in case he does, or no, I don't have Aurora Veil anymore. But it doesn't end up mattering because he has Extreme Speed on the Entei, but I think he knew the game was over, and I think he knew Extreme Speed wouldn't kill. I just go for the Earthquake, and down goes Mr. Bacon. And that is a nice 2-0. He got a couple of pretty, I would say, important critical hits, but it didn't really end up mattering. I got pretty lucky with Manaphy living on 1% HP, but I did calc it, I did put investment in, so I don't think it's that ridiculous. But it was a good battle nonetheless. I'm surprised he didn't bring the Hippowdon for how much that I prepped for it. And he also brought the Entei, which I was confused about because I felt my team totally just invalidated Entei. I mean, between Heatran, Manaphy, Flygon, and Aerodactyl, I thought that there was no shot he would bring Entei. But he did. And, you know, it's okay. And his team is Wholesale Puppers. And that was Gage. And if you saw, like, he had all dogs. Let me just reset this real quick. Look at that guy's team. He's got an Entei, he's got a Suicune, he's got a Stoutland, a Raikou, and a Zygarde. Wholesale Puppers completely. Anyways, thank you all for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. Leave me a like, subscribe if you like it. Yeah, that's about it. More stuff like this to come. This is only week 3, and we're 3-0, which is kind of crazy because I'm pretty sure I'm bad at Pokemon. But I don't know. Either way, until next time, everyone.